Welcome back to the Charlotte Hornets MyNBA series. Here I am, Belak, and we are in an exciting moment. Last episode out, we went through the draft, had some good selections. I feel like definitely made a bit of a reach here with Lance White the third at 18, but we redeemed ourselves. I feel like with Willard Bell here at first pick in the second round. As we now have to make some decisions in the free agency period. Brandon Miller obviously picking his 2-year option up. Mark Williams obviously picking his team option up. Nick Smith Jr., we could still use him on the team. Not saying Lance White III is going to come in and dominate as a backup, so Nick Smith Jr. gets a chance. Kyle Boswell had a chance this past season. I just wasn't a fan of his shot. Is very slow. So despite being a good shooter, I think we're going to move on from him after just 1 year, and we get a look around the league of guys who declined their player options. Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler, Jalen Brunson, and Kyrie Irving. So the Knicks bring in De'Aaron Fox to play alongside quote-unquote Jalen Brunson. And Brunson may have not liked that because he is gone, potentially. He could still, re-sign with them, but that's interesting. The Rockets make the right decision there. They do not give Fred VanVleet $44 million. That is probably one of the smartest things I've ever seen a team do in NBA2K. The Heat do not resign Nikola Jovic, so that's going to be an interesting guy to look out for. Landry Shamet gets dropped, so there's a bunch of guys down here getting dropped. Qualifying offers, I'm fine without extending it to PJ Hall. Trey Mann, I would definitely extend it to because he's a guy I want to go after very bad. Now, let's take a look at how this roster is constructed. Point guard, pretty happy with there. Shooting guard, if we can bring Trey Mann back, I'm pretty happy there. Small forward, could use a backup small forward, could use a backup power forward. And center, I'm pretty happy with. Now, the good thing is we have some money to play around with. We have, enough money theoretically that we could offer OG Anunoby, but in 2K he's pretty bad, I will admit, I should say. He is not really a good player in 2K. Well, when you play the games, he's good. When you simulate the games, he doesn't know how to perform. Same thing with Patrick Williams, who is very expensive. Alperen Sengun's here, but unfortunately, we can't really afford any of the absolute stars unless we went over. Ooh, that was almost bad. I wonder what kind of cap holds we have right now, because we should only have a little bit. Yeah, we don't really have any. We can get rid of PJ Hall. We can get rid of Kyle Boswell. JT Thor, don't really see him playing too much, so I'm fine with letting him walk. As we, try to bring in some young guys to replace them, I'm fine. Nikola Jovic, 7.8 points per game last year, 85 3-ball, okay on defense. I'm definitely going to bring in Nikola Jovic if I can. We'll try and get him on a 1+1 team option at $4.7 million as our first real offer, and then we'll go over here, and I'm going to be fine locking up Trey Mann. Really good deal for Trey Mann there at 4 years, $7.4 million, and both of those guys look like they're going to agree to our contracts. I'll be happy to bring them in and have them on the roster. That's some pretty good signings there for this Hornets team that struggles to get free agents. And now we have, 9, 11, and 13. Do we have enough room to sign 2 more players? Looking for a backup small forward, and I guess we could just use a veteran presence. But we still have some money left. Jalen Suggs is there. Paul George is there as well. These guys are walking in, from good situations. Jalen Suggs looks like he's going to go to the Warriors on a bit of a prove-it deal. Fred VanVleet is there. I wouldn't mind, theoretically, 1 year of Fred VanVleet off the bench. That would be interesting to try and do. Drew Holiday is there. 35 years old, not expecting a whole lot of money. Malcolm Brogdon is there. He's a lot cheaper, though. We could bring in a backup point guard and let Lance White III sit for a couple of years. That's definitely a possibility. Trey Murphy is there. He would be the best case scenario off the bench there at that small forward position. If we can get just like a straight scorer, a straight bucket getter, or a guy like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope who could come off the bench at the small forward spot and hit some threes, play some defense. I like that. I like that signing. We're going to bring in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, hopefully for a bit of a veteran presence off the bench. And then I also am going to go over and he's going to be our backup small forward. So he's going to change there to small forward. And we could bring in Trey Man's twin and Terrence Mann. I don't think that that's really going to do us anything or anything any good. So can I actually trade away Nick Smith Jr. yet? Or is he on like a recently signed? Because I'm fine getting rid of Nick Smith Jr. If we can get rid of him to the Clippers for a first-round pick, that's crazy. That is a bit of a crazy trade. The Magic for a first-round pick? Honestly, I'm fine trading him for that Clippers trade just because I do want to bring in another point guard that I hadn't really looked at. And, you know, the Clippers trying to bolster this roster. They've got Mitchell. They've got Irving now. They've got Damon Reed. They need a backup point guard. I think that could really help them out. Is there anybody else on this roster that would make sense for them to be interested in? You can't really trade the rookies. Jovic is there, which we just signed him, so not going to be moving him. I guess you could say they'd be interested in Nick Richards, but I'm fine with that trade right now. I'm going to go after Jrue Holiday. 35 years old, sign him to a 2-year deal. He's going to get worse, but off the bench, how bad could he be? He's going to bring that defensive-minded general to the bench of the Charlotte Hornets, and bam, that is a big signing for the Charlotte Hornets. Now, let's take a look at where everybody ended up going. Jason Tatum ends up in Toronto. That's a big shift from Boston. Donovan Mitchell goes to the Clippers. We saw that. LeBron back to LA at 1 year, $51 million at 40 years old. Jimmy Butler, 35 years old. He's going to return to Miami. Jalen Brunson returning to Detroit, or going to Detroit, not returning. So the Knicks may very well regret that move they made. Let's look at their roster now. After that trade they made for De'Aaron Fox, I was intrigued because they could, you know, potentially set themselves up for a, I was going to say move De'Aaron Fox over to the 2 position and have Jalen Brunson, Fox, Dante DiVincenzo probably, and then Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson, but no more Jalen Brunson, so we'll have to see how they'll be able to bounce back. Let's take a look at this Pistons roster. They've made some interesting changes. Jalen Brunson's there. Did they sign Jalen Brunson over Cade Cunningham? Interesting if that's what happened, because he doesn't have a lot of help still. I don't know how good that team's going to be still, and it looks like that's exactly what happened, so we'll see that as we get farther down. Jimmy back to Miami, I said. Evan Mobley back to Cleveland, restricted. Kyrie, as we saw, at 33 years old, teams up with Donovan Mitchell in Los Angeles for the Clippers. Jamal Murray going back to Denver. Sengun back to the Rockets, and Cade Cunningham going to Washington. So the Wizards, for the first time in as long as I can remember, get a top free agent to sign with them. That's crazy. Everybody else here kind of staying the same. OG Anunoby to Chicago, Zubac to Boston, Kuminga after dominating in the playoffs. I mean, dominating, having a great year last year overall. He's going to be jumping ship to Brooklyn. Clint Capella will be reuniting in Houston. Jrue Holiday obviously ended up in Charlotte. We signed him there. Chicago retains Lonzo. Jalen Johnson re-signs with the Grizzlies. So Trey Mann back to Charlotte. Marvin Bagley to Phoenix. Karis LeVert to the Celtics. We obviously signed Kentavious Caldwell-Pope as well. Davion Mitchell to the Kings. Isaiah Joe, that's a good pickup for them, though. I didn't realize he was a free agent. I would have been interested in him a lot sooner. 86 3-ball there. Good pickup for the Nuggets. A couple of guys on the move as well. Celtics bring in Leslie Perry, a second-round draft pick that was released. Jovic goes to the Hornets. Obviously, I really like that pickup for us. I felt like we got him on a good deal. And then we were also able to surround him with some veteran presence guys there as well. Definitely weren't going to be able to go after any of the top players, but we still have some money to play with theoretically. I mean, we have a full roster, so I'm pretty happy with where we stand now. As Scotty Barnes, man, I didn't realize he was unprotected. The Heat are going to take him. Jalen Green probably going to end up on the Rockets again. We'll just take a look and see as we go to player progression because we're done with free agency. Let's see where everybody ended up. Scotty Barnes signs a 4-year, $157 million deal to go to Utah. That's an interesting one. And we'll actually just go around the league and take a look at the rosters as they stand. We'll do it with player progression on just to see. Starting with the 76ers, their new look roster looks the same. Joel Embiid, Maxey, Embiid getting slightly worse. Kevin McCullough is getting slightly better there as their shooting guard. Outside of that, they don't have a lot of help. This team, not very good. Probably not going to go very far. The Bucks aren't in a good spot either. Giannis, Dame worse. Chris Middleton a lot worse. Bobby Portis not getting worse, not getting better. Andre Jackson Jr. slightly better. Christian Wood getting worse. Man, this team is not very good right now. They've got some young pieces down here at the bottom, but they also have some really old guys like Pat Connaughton. And a lot of their young pieces are not very good. So Giannis, 2 years left on his deal. We'll have to see what happens with him come free agency time next year. The Bulls, their big signing was OG Anunoby. Yeah, not very good, but they do have Reggie Manning, so that one should be interesting to see. They have Max Townsend as well. Yeah, we'll see where they go. They're going to be bad this year. Cavs lose Mitchell. Keep Garland, though. They get Mobley, Allen, Garland, Oubre, Okoro. Mystery gets slightly better. Zach Collins goes up. Man, that's got to be tough after a finals run to lose your best player and then not get anybody in return. That's got to be really tough. The Celtics lose Tatum, but they've still got a good roster. They've got Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, Derek White, Zubac, their rookie Gabe Cole, Peyton Pritchard. Yeah, they're not very good overall, I will say. Thought they would have a better roster than that, but yeah, Jaylen Brown's going to have to carry there. He's stuck there for 4 years. And Porzingis probably going to jump ship, if we're being honest, before this season ends. As the Clippers did an okay job to build a roster. They were left with really no one on the roster, so they have got Sean Highland starting. Nick Smith Jr. got better, so good trade for them, I would say. Donovan Mitchell, and yeah, we're actually going to... Can I not make changes there? No, I cannot, apparently. And now we won't be able to see all the rosters. We're going to have to go through the Summer League. We'll just fill out that roster automatically, and then we will simulate through that. I don't ever really play the Summer League just because it's kind of boring to play. And yeah, we'll just see how everybody performed. Did we get eliminated? We get eliminated in the first round. That's unfortunate. We'll have to see. A couple of guys getting hurt, and I thought we weren't even playing anymore, so how are they getting hurt? I couldn't tell you. But the Nets go on to win, so let's finish our look at the rosters around the league. Clippers doing a good job, I would say, of retooling, because they made that big trade. They got Kyrie, though. They have Donovan. They brought in Damon Reed, who I swear if they do not start him over Rui Hachimura, I will be very mad. Power forward, not very good, but you could always slide Rui Hachimura over to the power forward spot, and he'll be better there as well. He's short, but I think he could still perform. And they don't have a very good center right now. They've got a rookie center. So that'll be an interesting experiment. Both of those guys are locked up, so they can continue to build around them. They're very top-heavy, I will say. The Grizzlies trying to get back to the finals, or get back to the conference finals. They pretty much stayed the same. Brought back Jalen Johnson. Good job by them. Brought in Paul Reed. Ronald Nelson. Yeah, they're about the same roster as they are in real life. Just adding Jalen Johnson. Trae Young and DeJounte Murray are still teamed up somehow. Sarr is still there. They didn't do much at all. Yeah, man, this team is the exact same. They did bring in Rudy Rodman to replace Clint Capella there in Atlanta. The Heat not looking great right now. Jimmy Butler struggling. Tyler Hero hasn't been great. Bam Adebayo hasn't been great, but they still have Jaime Jaquez and Terry Rozier. Isaiah Collier was really doggone good for them last year. I mean, he was really good. Definitely one of the better rookies, and they got him 15th overall, so that's a very good pickup there for the Miami Heat late in the first, or I shouldn't say late, halfway through the first round, and then they also ended up grabbing Trenton Flowers, and Jordan Clarkson is still there. That's our roster. Let's see how anybody got better, because we didn't get to see our progression. Man, Drew Holiday drops by 4. That's tough. Lance White III somehow getting worse because he's not really sure how he's getting worse considering he hasn't played an NBA game yet. But I guess that's just a thing that can happen. You know, maybe he's not very happy that he got is a backup now. I don't know. I couldn't really tell you. Shooting guard Stephon Cassell gets better by 1. Not really exciting. Trey Mann goes down by 1. Contavious Caldwell-Pope goes down by a few. Wonder if we can move him over to small forward. Will he go up or will he go down? It will go up, actually, so I'm fine with moving him there for 1 year as the backup. But he can still light it up from 3 and play some really, really good defense, I will say. So I'm happy with him still as the backup small forward. Power forward stays the same. Bridges at 78, Jovic at 74. And then center, we have Mark Williams and Nick Richards gets worse. So Willard Bell is pretty much free to get that starting spot there for our backup spot. The Jazz, though, still not very good, but they do bring in Scotty Barnes, a big signing there for Utah. Not really realistic, but they're going to pair him next to Keontae George, who is pretty good, I will say. I mean, obviously, he's pretty good, but will they be a good team? We'll have to see. They still have Sexton, have RJ Barrett, John Collins, Walker Kessler. They've got an okay roster there. Kings, probably going to be one of those teams that blow everything up as far as, oh my goodness. Sacramento fans, I am so sorry. Your starting, or your backup center drafted 3rd overall, you traded De'Aaron Fox for him, is out for the season. Yeah, this Kings team might end up being one of those that blows it up halfway through. They might end up trading Monk, Mitchell, and Sabonis or something like that. Crazy turn of events there. We saw the Knicks earlier. Lakers have their core still. AD, LeBron, brought in Fred VanVleet to play above D'Angelo Russell somehow. Not a terrible roster, but nothing crazy. Pelicans, or no, this is the Magic. Magic have a good roster now. Banchero, Duran, Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr. still there somehow. Jameer Sparks is going to be their starting point guard. Cole Anthony off the bench. Antonio Griffith, Anthony Black, and Reed Shepard and Jonas Valanciunas. They've got a good roster. Do not be surprised if they compete. The Mavericks, nothing going. They lost Irving or Kyrie, and I mean, man, tough blow there for the Mavericks. You don't bring anybody back that's as good as Kyrie in that free agency period. The Nets stay the same, pretty much. They brought in Jonathan Kuminga to be their starting power forward. They've got a good roster there, good young roster, or core, I should say, besides Cam Johnson's the oldest at 29 years old. I know they have Dorian Finney-Smith still at 32. So interesting roster there. The Nuggets stay the same. Yeah, they stay exactly the same. They do bring in Isaiah Joe. Devin Carter is there. Yeah, pretty much the same roster. Pacers stay the same, pretty much. Exact same, actually. Pelicans bring Zion back. You've got Brandon Ingram. You've got Herb Jones. You've got Dyson Daniels. They don't have a center anymore, but they do have Randolph Mercer. And I think Jordan Hawkins is, yeah, he's still out for the season. So that's interesting to say the least. Let's fly through the rest of these rosters. Pistons, we saw, they've got an interesting uphill battle. Raptors have a good roster. Made a playoff run last year into the second round. Then they bring in Tatum. They have the same core outside of Tatum with replacing Scotty Barnes for Tatum pretty much. But they also brought in Malcolm Brogdon. Should have signed him over Drew Holiday if we're being honest. And As the Rockets have Jalen Green, Min Thompson, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr., Paul George, Cam Whitmore. Not a bad team if we're being honest. Tari Eason's really good off the bench. Cam Whitmore is going to be really good off the bench. They brought in Clint Capella, Jeremy Grant. They have good balance, and they have Lawrence Woolridge as their backup point guard pretty much. So, or actually their starter, I will say. So, pretty good lineup if you're a Rockets fan. The Spurs brought in finally a point guard to serve beside Wembanyama, Jalen Suggs, Devin Vassell. Then they also have Robert Dillingham from last year. Charles Bassey is still here. And they also brought in Kyle Kuzma as well. Kevin Durant and the Suns have nobody on roster because they couldn't afford anybody. Durant will be expiring, though, so we'll have to see where he goes after this year in Phoenix. So they've got Booker, Beal. Yeah, they've got the same roster, essentially. The Thunder have the same core, but obviously they brought in Kawhi Leonard. And then James Harden is down here at a 77 overall, so he's going to be their backup point guard behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That team is dirty. I don't know how anybody competes with that team. Timberwolves, good core, not really improving, not really getting much worse, except for, yeah, actually they are getting worse because 79 overall is their third best player. Where Mike Conley retired, so they don't have their best point guard anymore. Trailblazers made some good moves. They drafted finally Smart. Instead of drafting another guard, they got a small forward, so that one should set them up for some success. Warriors, man, the downfall of this dynasty. Man, Steph Curry all alone. Maybe a potential trade target. That would be a lot of fun. And finally, the Wizards had Cade Cunningham sign. They've got him beside Denny, beside Ron Holland. Big turnaround. They've got a lot of small forwards, though. They're going to have to trade one or two of those guys. Quentin Grimes is there. Bilal Coulibaly is there. They still have Jordan Poole as well. All-star selection for next season will be, man, that would be a crazy one. New York City, as we see our first look at the NBA Hoops or 2K Hoops Summit, which gives you a look at the top high school rookies. So these are guys that will be going in next year. The lead Team USA with points, you had Kenny Long, who dropped 23. He is a 5'9" point guard. No way that guy's going to be the best out of the draft. This is just a look around at everybody else. Alan Stankovic, 18 years old, out of Lithuania, dropped 25 for Team World. And now, as we will advance into the next season, your Hornets roster, final roster, I should say, will look like this. LaMelo, Drew backing him up, Stephon Cassell with Trey Mann backing him up, Brandon Miller with KCP backing him up, Miles Bridges with Nikola Jovic, and then you've got Mark Williams with a committee backing him up as well. And we're going to give Drew Holiday training LaMelo right away on the defensive side of the ball. We'll open up year 2 against the Grizzlies. I believe we opened up against them last year, so it should be a bit of a, fun look to see how far we've come or if we've gotten worse. What would you rank this offseason? I thought we had some good signings. Obviously, we didn't make any big free agency splashes because it's really hard to sign free agents, major ones at least, to Charlotte. So it's going to be tough to do that anyways. But I still think we made some good moves with what we have. Let me know how you think or how you feel about the free agency signings we did. As always, I hope you did enjoy this video. Next episode, we'll be starting a new season and potentially with some new storylines, with some new trades. And let me know what you guys are most excited for going into year 2. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all next time. Peace out.